Strength and endurance. Maximum force all at once and a steady, sustained effort. Two opposing attributes, both equally exciting in their own way. To me, endurance is all about the struggle. 2.5 laps into a mile race around the track, 3 miles into a mountain hike. It's about that in-between place, where you've gone just far enough to feel the fatigue setting in, but not far enough yet to feel any sense of accomplishment about it, where your body starts screaming at you to stop, but you know you're only just getting started. That place represents a kind of simultaneous dread for all that remains, and joy at the prospect of pushing yourself further than last time, at how great it will be when you reach yesterday's limit and go past it. That's what I like about endurance. It's a practice in discomfort, in finding peace in the struggle. It changes the mind. It's the road to perseverance, to integrity and will. Strength is great too. Fighting against a 1/4 ton of solid iron, leveraging a heavy sandbag onto one leg after just barely managing to lift it a couple inches off the ground. There's nothing more exciting than going for a max lift. Where endurance is a representation of the ability to persevere, to not quit, you might say that strength is the ability to get stuff done. It's the characteristic of someone capable of having a meaningful impact on their surroundings. Strength and endurance. Two opposing things, both worth having on their own in isolation. Come together though, now that's something different entirely. When the power of the mind to endure a sustained effort comes together with the physical power of the body to get stuff done, you get what I believe is the greatest thing a person can train for: strength endurance. What is it and what makes it special? Strength endurance is the ability to do hard things for a long time. It's the quality of someone who can and will find a way to survive in even the harshest of scenarios, of someone who will not let up regardless of circumstance, regardless of the challenge ahead. If endurance is perseverance and strength is the ability to get stuff done, strength endurance is the will to fight death. It's the attribute of someone who's decided to embrace life and to live it, not as some kind of near mortem passerby, but as an active participant. Strength endurance is something I've been a bit obsessed with for years now. There's something so exciting about it. It seems to take strength and endurance and combine them together into something that's so much more than either one could ever be on their own. I found many ways to train strength endurance. High-rep bodyweight calisthenic circuits are great. Long-distance carries are too. But it wasn't until recently that I discovered what I believe is the truest form of strength endurance there is. See, the problem with most things, and I say problem lightly, I don't think these things are necessarily bad by any means, but the problem is most training styles or exercises end up skewed in one direction, either a bit too far on the side of strength or on the side of endurance. Circling around the center is great, and I'll continue to do so. There's a lot to be gained from time spent in those surrounding areas, but that true middle place, once I found it, everything changed. I believe the single greatest exercise there is for developing strength endurance is the Sandbag Box Squat. It's the perfect combination of heavy lifting and sustained effort. When done for high reps with heavy weight, using the traditional rest pause breathing squat style approach, where you're allowed as much rest time between reps as you need, as long as you never let go of the weight, the exercise makes you a master of strength endurance in the purest sense of the word. The Sandbag Box Squat is perfect. I feel like I've been looking for this exercise ever since I started lifting weights. It's a hike through a mountain pass and it's lifting a stone. It's a 3-mile race and a heavy squat both. It's all of these things and more. The Sandbag Box Squat might not look like anything special from the outside, but it lets you push heavy weight for high reps in a way I've never been able to replicate with anything else. The first secret to the exercise is found in the bottom position. When you're seated on a box with a sandbag on your lap, your body is given the chance to recover. That bottom position is a place of rest, or a near rest, meaning even if you don't want to, if you wait long enough, you can recover enough strength to do another rep. This makes the exercise very different from something like a barbell squat, where you're forced to support a heavy weight on your back during the entirety of a set, because rather than a partial rest, you can recover completely. Nothing against barbell squats, I think they're great too, by the way, and the sustained effort of supporting a heavy weight on the back for a long time is likely responsible for additional muscle growth in its own way, but when talking about true strength endurance, pushing with a heavy weight for a very long time, the Sandbag Box Squat is the way to go. The second secret is that the Sandbag Box Squat is a near-complete full-body movement. Many might consider it a legs exercise, but I believe to do so would be to undervalue it. The exercise is full body. Nearly everything is involved in lifting a sandbag on every single rep. This is important because the more muscle involved in an exercise, the more potential there is for pushing it to an extreme level. This is just a basic example, but forget muscle isolation for a moment and consider a preacher curl and a standing barbell cheat curl. They're both curls, but because the cheat curl involves so much more muscle, you could probably do 10 times the number of reps if you wanted to. The sandbag box squat is like that, but on some kind of higher plane. It's like if you could take the distance between a preacher curl and a cheat curl and magnify it another 20 times again. Combine the two parts together, the bottom of the exercise is a place of rest, and it involves nearly every muscle of the body, and you have the perfect strength endurance exercise. To start, I'd like to briefly cover how to do the exercise, then I'll go over everything it's done for me and what it might do for you, because while it has given me some crazy strength endurance, that's hardly the half of it. The basic form is very straightforward. Hold a sandbag in the bear hug position against your chest, sit down onto a box, and stand up. There really isn't much more to it than that, which is part of what makes it special. You don't need to worry much about technique at all, which lets you focus all of your attention on pushing your limits. There are a few details I'd like to cover though. First is the box itself. You'll want to get as close to a parallel position at the bottom of the rep as you can. Parallel being the point where your thighs are parallel to the ground and the crease of your hips is at roughly the same height as the tops of your knees. By the way, I don't recommend the parallel position as an attempt to standardize things or to fit the exercise within some kind of arbitrary confine as a way to say this is how I think it should be. I don't care about that. Rather, I'd recommend the parallel position because I believe it's the most effective when going for high reps. Parallel is the perfect balance of weight and range of motion. If the box height is set too low, your legs will face a much greater challenge and will wear out long before your back, meaning less of a training stimulus for the back and less potential for high reps. If the box is too high, the legs won't contribute nearly as much, and you'll have to use much heavier weights to accommodate the smaller range of motion, meaning more total fatigue, and a harder time managing recovery on a weekly and monthly scale. Parallel is the place of perfect balance, allowing the legs and the back to fatigue at an even pace, letting you push your sets furthest. Another thing you should consider is rocking yourself off the box. While often described as a cheat, in my experience, rocking off the box is actually another essential part of maintaining balance. If you stay strict, your legs will likely wear out before your back, meaning you won't be able to push your sets nearly as far. Remember, the more muscle involved in an exercise, the higher its potential, and maintaining balance is what you need to keep the most amount of muscle working the longest. The final thing worth mentioning here is grip. If you hold a sandbag too far down near the bottom, the exercise becomes much more challenging for the back. If you attempt to bypass this challenge by grabbing too high up, all of the sand will eventually shift on you and become tightly packed below your arms, forcing you to grab the sandbag very low and significantly increasing the grip challenge. Both scenarios disrupt that balance we're after. For best results, grab the sandbag somewhere around halfway to 3/4 of the way up. Again, I don't say this as a way to gatekeep the exercise or to say it must be done this way to count. Who cares? I say this because it works best. Starting in the recommended halfway to 3/4 position will cause a kind of wedge to form in the sandbag, where the sand has become tightly packed both above and below your arms. That's the perfect place to be when going for max reps. Also, when talking about grip, if you can, I recommend eventually working towards using an S grip for the extra stability you'll get. I recently made a video covering it, so I won't go into much detail here. I'll have it linked in the description if you want to know more. Just know the S grip is very strong, and it will likely serve you better than a fingers interlocked or hands apart grip when going for max reps with the sandbag box squat. Quick backstory, over the last 6+ months, I've become obsessed with sandbag box squats. I've taken 250 pounds for a set of 55 reps, 220 for 110 reps, 200 for 250, and a 175-pound sandbag for a set of 300. I think it's safe to say I've used the exercise to push my body to its limit many times now, and the changes I've seen from doing so have been pretty great. By the way, I don't think anyone needs to push quite that far unless they want to. It's an option, and if you eventually get hooked on these high rep sets, you might come to like the idea, but I wouldn't consider it necessary to push all the way to sets of 300. Working up to the 50 to 100 rep range with heavy weights over time is a good place to be in my opinion. I covered how to do that in my recent sandbag intensity video if you want to know more. Before moving forward, I want to mention this one more time because it's absolutely essential. When I say high rep sandbag box squats, I mean high reps with heavy weights. Taking a 50 rep max to 50 reps is one thing, but taking a 10 rep max that far is something else entirely. If the sandbag is too light, you probably won't see the same kind of results. Light is subjective and everybody's different. Just be sure to choose a weight that gives you a real challenge. That out of the way, let's cover what the exercise can do, starting with muscle. High rep sandbag box squats will build the forearms, upper arms, the entire backside of the body, the core, the quads and hamstrings, and in my experience at least, more than anything else, the glutes. I've been bulking since I started working with these high rep sets, and they've been the main focus of my training. Being completely transparent, the growth I've seen has been pretty typical for a standard bulk. Just slow, consistent gains, nothing too out of the ordinary. That is, except for one area, the glutes. My butt has become massive. I don't know how else to say it. This is kind of off topic, but I recently saw a video that seems to support this idea, and I thought it was cool. Arthur Jones once said, "Personally, I am beginning to suspect that best results for lower body exercises, particularly for the buttocks and the thighs, come from one set of very high repetitions, perhaps as many as 100 or more. It is a very painful way to train, and not a very pleasant way to train, but all indications that I have at this point indicate that it's a very productive way to train, if you can stand it, if you can tolerate it. And surprisingly, if you're doing an exercise like the squat, it does not require much of a reduction in resistance. If you can do one repetition with 400 pounds, then you can probably do 100 reps with 380. So a slight reduction in maximum weight will permit you to do an enormous number of repetitions." These high rep sets have proven to me how right he was. I've been able to push heavy weights so much further than I thought was possible, and those weights really did build my buttocks. I don't know too much about the man himself, by the way, Arthur Jones, but he seems kind of polarizing. People seem to either love or hate him. Don't see this as me taking a side, I really just don't care. All I'm saying is he was onto something with high rep squats in the butt, and box squats made high rep sets accessible with weights I personally never could have managed while supporting a bar on my back, like when using a barbell. It's like the Sandbag Box Squat is a secret weapon for reaching the high intensity level needed for dramatic results, allowing anyone to get there, even if they don't typically have what it takes to do so. For this reason, I believe high-rep sandbag box squats are worth doing even if the only thing you care about is muscle and nothing else, because they really do work. To expand on that, you might need to take this next part with a grain of salt because I don't have a way to actually prove it, but I believe high-rep sandbag box squats also have the power to supercharge any program they're a part of. Say you run a typical machine, isolation-focused muscle-building program. Well, I believe if you were to add high-rep box squats once or twice a week, the rest of the program would work better. High-rep box squats act as a kind of signal, demanding of the body a systemic increase in muscle size as a way to prepare for future survival. Everything seems to feed off that signal, directly related or not. Next, I'd like to talk about carryover to other areas of training. The high-rep sandbag box squat is, in my opinion, the ultimate base builder. It seems to transfer to everything. If you push far enough, meaning you dedicate at least a few months to the exercise, you'll find you gain a kind of widespread durability. Your posterior chain and core become so strong, weights used for once challenging heavy compound movements will start to feel like a warm-up. The grip gains you get are incredible too. Since working with the high rep box squat, my grip has become so strong and resilient. For the most part, I don't even need to think about it anymore. Pure heavy lifting becomes easier. For me, my strength lifting sandbags from the ground improved a lot, which is huge because that's always been a weak point of mine. The strength endurance you gain will carry over to other strength endurance activities like calisthenic circuits or long distance carries too. That was a big deal to me because I was partly worried all the box squats would turn me into some kind of box squat specialist, unable to perform other tasks, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It was actually the opposite. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the high-rep sandbag box squat seems to represent strength endurance in its purest form, causing improvements in anything strength endurance related. To my surprise, the exercise even seems to have a positive effect on power exercises like the sandbag to shoulder too. I went months without doing the sandbag to shoulder at all, and when I went back to it, while my form didn't at first feel as sound as it had before, just because I hadn't practiced it, I found it didn't even matter. The power gains were good enough I was able to throw around heavy weights even without perfect technique. Working with high-rep sandbag box squats was the best decision I've made in my training in years, and I'll never look back. As crazy as it sounds, I've actually come to enjoy the high-rep sets in the same way I do the sandbag to shoulder, which is saying something considering how great the sandbag to shoulder is. I hope you'll give sandbag box squats a chance. If you want to know more about how to use the high-rep sandbag box squat in a program, I just officially released my second book. It's called Sandbag Intensity. It's a deep dive into high-rep box squats and also comes with a lot of stuff to get you motivated to go train. Thank you to everyone who already got the book. Once again, I have been just blown away by how awesome this community is. You all are seriously the best. If you're interested, I'll have a link to the book on Amazon, as well as a link to the massive video I made going over the Sandbag Intensity program in the description below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.